G'day guys, how are we? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, May 29th, 2023. Thankfully I've got the right date up there this time. Great to be back. As you know, if you watch this show, I've been overseas for the last couple of weeks. So great to be home, and even better, great to be back talking boxing with you fine folks out there, men and women, whoever you are. And I've got a feeling I know what's going to be on the agenda tonight. We've got a lot to get through, of course. We've got the Maloney trip. I'm sure you've got a lot of questions about that. We've got Haney Lomachenko to talk about. We've got the No Limit card. And, of course, we've got, and tonight I'm going to go through the top 10s. Now, while we're going there, I'm just going to check that I've got my settings. Oh, there's Carl. How are you, mate? Great to have you along, mate. I'm just going to check my settings here to make sure that I'm not on private, because sometimes that does happen. But great to have you along there, Carl. Where are we? My videos. I think we're live. Yes, we are live, of course. Got a few watching there, so that's good. As I said, I'm just going to check to see whether I'm on. Yes, where are we? Live. Yes, we are live. So there you go. So thanks for joining in, guys. We got past that. I probably should have checked that a little bit earlier. Mr. Pads, how are you, mate? So we've got Carl there. Love the videos. It was my pleasure bringing them to you, Carl. It was a great trip. I'll talk about it tonight, of course. I'm sure you guys out there have got a few questions. Yep, Mr. Pads. I don't know what's happened to the settings there, guys, on that there. So apologies about that. I will read them. I'm assuming you can see them in the chat there, but I'm not quite sure what's happening on screen. I'm not going to fiddle anymore. Let's just leave it as is. Cool video series, brah. Thanks, Mr. Pads. Love your country, Mr. Pads. Go over there probably 3 times a year. And it's almost like my second home over there, especially Las Vegas. I've been there many, many times. I just get there and it's like being at home. So I love it over there. I'm not sure where you're from there, but it's a great place to go, and as I said, it's like my second home. One thing, guys, before we get going, a little apologies for the microphone. I'm not quite sure how it's coming across. My normal proper microphone doesn't, or has shit itself, as I think happened last time. We get the buzzing sound. So I am on the computer microphone, so if it's no good, let me know. But unfortunately, that's the way it's going to be tonight. Carl, what do you got there, mate? Hopefully Andrew has made a full recovery. Yeah, we'll talk about that, mate. We'll address it from the start. Obviously, it was a really, really bad knockout by Andy. What happened to Andy. If you've watched the videos, you would have seen that it was a real tough watch to see that happen to Andy. He's a good mate, and we've supported him or been around Andy since the start of his pro career. It wasn't overly fun to see, obviously, but he is okay. It must have been on the night. Obviously, we're concerned about Andy's health, but I don't know what it was. My wife said the same thing. My initial thoughts went to Andy's wife, Chelsea, who's such a great young lady, and she had the 2 kids there with her. So that was difficult to watch as well. And I I remember when Andy did get knocked down, of course, the fight fans go up, and there was a massive cheer in the arena. And I've probably done that before, but when I've been there myself and seen a neutral fighter get knocked out. But to see someone that you know and are good friends with, and you've been associated with in the sport, to see people go up with really no regards to Andy, it was all just what a great knockout. That was probably hard. And as I said, my first thought went to Chelsea and little kids there. So, but he's okay. All that aside, he is okay. I didn't ring him the next day. We actually left first thing. Well, when I say first thing, about 11 o'clock on the Sunday morning. I did message him. And he did message me straight back to say thanks for your concern, and he's okay. And I did see the social media after that he was up and about. So, I won't beat around the bush. It was tough. It was really tough, and you would have seen that. The video that Ronnie and I did afterwards. Ronnie was obviously emotional as well. He treats those guys like his probably grandsons, I suppose. Probably not sons, more like grandsons, and he took it pretty hard. It was. Look, the whole trip was great. We can't just focus on the bad. There was the good, of course. Jason Maloney won the world title a week earlier, and I did sort of feel for him a little bit because he just didn't have a chance to celebrate his win. You would have seen on the video we did afterwards, the poor bugger had to go to hospital. We all went back to the Great Wolf Lodge in Stockton there. We had a great time. We all sat around, had like a little beer garden or whatever you call it out the back, and had fire. And, it was a whole team there. We had we didn't have any drinks or anything, but we just had a little bit of dinner. And, some had a hot chocolate, some had a Coke, whatever it was. But it was all just good to be around. Poor old Jason was at the hospital with a suspected broken hand. I haven't spoken to him since I've been home, but I don't think it is broken, which is good. The poor bugger was at the hospital. He got back at about 3 a.m. Of course, everyone was long gone. And then I think the crew had to be up and gone by about 7 o'clock in the morning. So poor old Jason literally didn't see anyone after the fight. He got back by himself to the point where he rang me and Ronnie as well. He rang as well, saying, "Boys, what are you up to? It'd be nice to catch up for a coffee and at least have someone to celebrate it with." But of course, we had to go as well. We're on our way to Las Vegas, so I did feel from him. And then, of course, after the fight, the last thing he would have wanted to do, of course, is celebrate. But I'm sure that now the boys are at home, the dust has settled. I'm sure Andrew will be the first one to want to celebrate Jason's win. And I'm sure that going forward, that as I said, once the dust settles, that they can celebrate it properly. But I did feel for him. Jules says, "Welcome back, Lynden. Vlogs were great. Pumped for the debrief." Yeah, look, mate. I'm not Martin Scorsese, I'll admit that, but it was just every night, and I love doing it. It was just to get back, quickly download the videos, put a little bit of music to it, and try my best to edit it and put it out so you guys was hot off the press could see what was happening over there, and that's the whole purpose of it. As I said, I'm not pretending to be one of those YouTubers out there that do this for a living. It's just me putting it together. I love doing it, and just to bring you guys in, especially in this situation there. You would have seen last September when we did the Canelo Triple G vlog. Obviously, I had no part in that promotion. I was just there, and I was just detailing everything. But to actually be there, be at the gym every day, both in Stockton and Las Vegas, at the top-ranked gym there, and of course, obviously dealing with the boys themselves and everyone else. I'm hoping you guys got just a little bit of input into what it's like into these big fights. And even for me, I mean, in Las Vegas, I've been there countless times and seen the grand arrivals and the open workouts and the press conferences and all that sort of stuff. Being purely a neutral spectator, but to actually be there and I suppose be part of the team. We're not officially part of the team, but we're unofficial team members with our shirts and that on, to sort of be part of the whole crew and just to see those boys in something like that was just amazing. And I've spoken about on here before about my involvement with the boys going back to 2015 when I sponsored a trip for them to go to Las Vegas to see all this, to see the press conferences and grand arrivals and open workouts, and to see them actually 8 years later to achieve that and to be there and be amongst the whole thing was just amazing. To see Jason getting mobbed by people for photos with his belt, Andy getting mobbed as well, being caught up in the whole thing, of course, being part of the show. It was really satisfying to myself and Roddy, who's been the conditioning coach since day dot, or the running coach since day dot. It was pleasing. Enough of my ranting there, guys. Let's get into a little bit of your comments there. Mr. Pads, what have we got there, mate? On another note, hope Mr. Paro as well, having pulled out of the Prograis fight with an undisclosed injury. Well, apparently it was Achilles injuries, Mr. Pads, both of them. Now, I don't know how you go about injuring both your Achilles. I've seen it obviously happen plenty of times. It can be a pretty easy injury to get if you're running or bouncing around the ring or whatever. It can give away, but both at the same time, I'm not quite sure. As I said, I didn't really check a lot of social media apart from our own stuff while I was over there, so I'm not quite sure, apart from what I've seen on Boxing or Australian Boxing Central or the boxing sites over there, Mr. Pat. So I'm not quite sure what the extent of it is, but apparently it was both Achilles, which would have been really disappointing for him. And even today, I've seen that Liam Wilson's out of his fight as well on the No Limit show on the Tim Zoo undercard. So yeah, a little bit unfortunate. Some of our better boxers in Australia aren't getting those big fights and having to pull out with injury, especially this one, a world title fight, and a big world title fight at that. So got a feel for Liam Paro, but I'm sure he'll be back. He's had a little bit of bad luck in the last couple of years. He's obviously had the Jarvis fight, but that one round, I think it might be 18 months, whatever it's been. So hopefully he can get himself right. I did read he was going to be out for 5 or 6 weeks before he really could do anything. So that's really going to set him back probably up to three months. So by the time he fights again, it could be almost 2 years in between. Oh, sorry, he fought in October, I think it was, but one fight in probably 18 months to 2 years. So he needs to get himself rolling, and especially if he's going to have a fight with Progress down the track or whoever, probably needs to get himself a fight or two in between. So there you go, Carl. Sorry, I didn't even say that much. So you beat me to the punch. Jules, speaking of Andy's stoppage, how was Angelo after the fight? What were your thoughts on the criticism of the corner? I thought it was over the top. Thanks for asking that, Jules. That's a really good question. Look, I did read bits and pieces after the fight. I didn't actually speak to Angelo except via text message and a few other bits and pieces. Look, even when Jason fought him and won, I must admit, it was a little bit, hey, let them enjoy the moment. I didn't really deal with the guys until a day or two after the fight. And in this instance, I certainly wasn't going to be bothering Angelo the morning after. But in response to the question there, what did I think of the criticism? Look, I think I'm a little bit in between, Jules. I know that Fox Sports, as they do, first thing they do is pick up the phone and ring Jeff Fennick. I really would have hoped that maybe Jeff might have said, hey, no comment, because this is literally just after the fight. I know he was very critical of the corner. But as I said, I really wish Jeff, and he's easy. Look, it's easy to get a response from Jeff, which is why Fox Sports would have rang him straight afterwards. But as I said, I really wish Jeff just had said, "Hey, look, the guy's just pretty much been recovered in the change rooms and on his way to hospital. I'm not going to comment on that at the moment. Let's just let a few days go by." So I was a little bit disappointed that that Jeff did that. But I look to put it probably in the way of in a few different perspectives there, Jules. As from Andy's point of sorry, I'll backtrack a little bit. From me sitting in the stands, I hoped after the 11th round they would throw in the towel. That was just probably a selfish view. My thoughts were he was way behind on points. I'm not quite sure what the official scorecards were, by the way, but I thought, and Ronnie thought, that he was way behind on points. He'd taken a lot of punishment. He'd been dropped twice. I would have said at the end of the 11th round, that's it. However, on the flip side of the coin, from Angelo's point of view, it would have been, hey, this guy, he's given everything to this sport. He's followed the game plan that we've set him. I think we owe him to let him finish the last round. He's a warrior, and I think we should let him finish the last round. Again, I haven't spoken to Angelo, but I've got no doubt for what he feels about those I won't call them boys, those men, that he would have contemplated at some stage throwing in the towel. I've got no doubt. But then through the third perspective is through the fighter's eyes, and that's Andrew Maloney's, which way you go. Andrew's, I did read his response where he said he'd rather be carried out or whatever it was. I don't necessarily like that response, to be honest, but I'm not surprised by it because he is a warrior. He's a typical fighter. And I know he would have thought, I've sacrificed my life for this sport. I've given up 12 weeks training. I've been away from my family. This is the biggest stage you can possibly get on. I might not get another opportunity at a world title. This is his third crack at it. I know he had the title beforehand, but this might be his last crack at a world title. So I want to go for it. So I'm all over the place with this one, Jules. And look, end of the day, I'm comfortable with the fact that Andrew made the decision to go out and finish the last round. As I said, from the stands, I wanted him to stop it after the 11th, especially after he had that knockdown. As I said, he took a lot of punishment. He was busted up. He almost looked a little bit out of it in the corner. I couldn't really see a lot except for up on the stands, on the screen from the stands. My wife was texting me saying that he was not really responsive in the corner. He didn't really seem with it. Now, I'm not sure what you guys thought watching at home, but from what I could gather, as I said, the tank was empty. He'd given everything. And I will say, I saw all the game plan sort of go around in the camp. I saw Angelo and him on the pads and working with the training partner, sparring partner, whatever it was. I saw them, everything they were trying to work on, and he did everything to a T. So I have no dramas at all saying that he didn't fight the way he was supposed to. I think someone might have said, Angelo might have said it during the fight, but from where I was looking to what they were working on during the week or so beforehand, he followed it to the letter. Fought his absolute heart out. I don't think anyone would have begrudged him if he had pulled the pin after that 11th round or even earlier. So as I said, it's just a tough one for Andy. Which point of view you sort of go for? It's the fan and the fans in the stands. They didn't care. They probably wanted to see him get knocked out, and that's the bad side of boxing. I will say too, there's some pieces of shit out there. I know I don't like saying that. That go to the boxing. Some of the things they say and they do, and yeah, look, I don't know, but that's a whole different story. You see the bad side of a lot of people when this happens, and as I said earlier, probably hits home more than ever when you've actually got someone that's actually involved in the fight itself. But what do you guys think? As I said, I can see it through three different sets of eyes, but I've got no doubt, and it did look that way after the fight, that Andrew was happy with the way it turned out. Well, not the result, of course, but the fact that he gave it his all. He took the chance. And let's not forget, he was 18 seconds away from finishing the fight. And I think Angelo might have sort of questioned himself whether he should have stopped it in the end, but I'm sure that Andy would have said, you've done the right thing, and, I wanted to finish the fight, and I did that. But anyway, that's what I thought, mate. But I did, to get back to your point there, I know everyone's had a say on it, but I did think the criticism was over the top, I suppose, in a nutshell, to answer your question there, especially Fox Sports saying, hey, let's pick up the phone and ring Jeff. He's always good for a response. But anyway, what do we got there, Mr. Pads? Carl, that's serious, but I could be out for 6 months. That's the Achilles for Liam Paro. G'day, team Batman Boxing. How are you, mate? Salute to you as well. Bit of good boxing over the weekend over there in England. Read through the comments here. Got a few of you guys there. Sorry, guys. I'm just Paul. Paul Camilleri, how are you, mate? Fantastic work. I love the updates. Gave us great insight. Well, I appreciate that, Paul, because as I said, I'm no expert with it. I'm still learning. I'm always trying to find different ways to make them a bit more attractive to you, especially on days when there's not much happening. You would have seen that we did a bit of a mid sort of trip review and the after the fight reviews, all that sort of stuff. So we try and keep it interesting. If you guys have got any suggestions of how you would like for me to bring it to you, I'd love to do it, mate. Apart from getting daily updates from the fighters themselves, which might be a little bit hard, I'm open to it. So if you've got any suggestions, let me know. I did do a video last year, and I probably learned a lot from that. I went to the Hall of Fame weekend in Canastota. I was gone for 2.5 weeks, and I made the mistake of putting it all in one. It was a 45-minute video, so I understand that's a lot for someone to take out of the day to watch, and there was not a lot of input from me. It was just a lot of visual and music. So I learned from that to go into these vlogs. But again, if you've got any suggestions, please let me know. You went to the fights there, Batman. What do you got there? Really enjoyed it. Hoping to go to many more this year. Good on you, mate. I'd love to go to the fights in England. Been to the fights, as I said before, a lot of times in the States, but never in England. I would love to go, especially to like a Fury fight or a Joshua fight or something like that. That'd be pretty cool. But you never know. Maybe. But I am looking to get overseas another couple of times this year to do these vlogs. So who knows? Maybe Fury fights later in the year. Maybe I'll get to that one. Pretty good airfares too, by the way, to England at the moment. Carl, about what do you got there with the atmosphere? The atmosphere was great. Disappointed the Smith versus Eubank fighters off. I did see that. Same arena in a few weeks. Atmosphere, that would have been even better. Yeah, as I said, I'd love to get over there. Here we go. Ronnie Picken. I'm watching, mate, and taking notes. My travel buddy, the one and only Uncle Ronnie Picken, mate. I'm glad you had a good trip. And I did say before, mate, that it was pretty tough with the Andrew situation, but I couldn't think of anyone better to go away with. Even though he had a few dodgy days, Ronnie, we won't go into the details of that, but let's just say he was out of action for a couple of days and stuck in the hotel room after a bad batch of ribs. Just stick to the chicken tenders, Ronnie. But as I said, mate, it was great to have you along. What do we got there? Carl. All right. Did you happen to catch all the call-outs for Tyson Fury when he visited Australia for the Parker Django fight? Oh, jeez. All right. Okay, so we'll jump around anyway, but judging on what you guys want to talk about, we can jump back to the Maloney trip and the Haney Lomachenko fight. I'm sure that'll come up at some stage. Oh, Carl. Where do we start with this? I thought it was bad last year. Was it Eddie Hearn was in Australia? Every man and his dog wanted the selfie with Eddie Hearn, and everyone wanted the selfie and the call-out of Tyson Fury. Now, I thought Tyson Fury really handled himself well. You could see him. He was taking all the photos, all the selfies, whatever you want to call it. chatting with all the social media sites. But, oh, geez, if we've got to see another call out and another selfie on social media, I tell you what, I'm going to burn my eyeballs out. But, I mean, the call-outs. I mean, one minute he's fighting Jaya Pataya, then he's fighting Dempsey McKean, then he's fighting Joshua, and then he's fighting someone. Then he's fighting Ebony Bridges. I don't know. Look, it was a little bit much in the end, Carl. And I will say it gets a little bit... Oh, sorry, Gallen was the other one. Sonny Bill Williams was the other one. I've got your... Yeah, saw that there. But then what I did, I actually took myself out of the whole Australian segment of social media, because let's face it, we're a bit of a gullible bunch down here, aren't we? We believe anything that we're fed. I got onto some of the international sites and the logical ones, and straight from Bob Arum or even Eddie Hearn or these types of guys who tend to probably know a little bit more what's going on, and you sort of get the impression that Fury will wait until September to fight Joshua. I would think they'll fight each other if the Usyk thing doesn't happen. But geez, when Paul Galvin and Sonny Bill Williams got mentioned, I was like, oh geez, now I've seen it all. And Ebony Bridges actually, I thought, made a good point by saying, hey, what about everyone else is calling you out? What about you fight me? I need the payday. I mean, obviously in jest, but geez, Carl, come on. All you people out there that would fall, and all you people out there that were probably hanging shit on him after his last fight and the Usyk fight falling over, are all the ones standing in line to get selfies. But anyway, I thought it was a little bit of a circus, Carl. And what I will say too, and I think Ebony Bridges was the one that said it, Tyson Fury got more attention than Joshua Parker and Nikita Tszyu and everyone. Joseph Parker and Nikita Tszyu. He got more attention than anyone. All he was doing was sitting at ringside and walking in with the crew. So, but Carl, geez, fair income. What have we got there? Carl, all the guys that spoke after Andrew's fight were praying for his safety. Yeah, and that's good to see, mate. And look, sometimes we do forget that how cruel this sport can be and how tough it is. I only fought as an amateur, and that was more of a sport. This is like gladiators. It really is. And I can't remember. I was talking to Mike Altamura about it today, actually, because he's launched his show, which we'll talk about as well. That the duress that these athletes put themselves under. Now, you can only possibly understand this if you've actually been in a camp. And I've seen it where it's 8 to 12 weeks. The amount of the training, the dieting, being away from family, so the mental aspect of it, the media commitments, all this sort of stuff, they just put themselves through. And then the fight itself, 12 rounds of absolute hell, and especially in this case with Andrew, you sort of tend to forget what these guys put them through, and that's why. When these guys stand up and yell and scream and hopefully he gets carried out in a stretcher, I hate seeing that. But I'm glad, Carl, that, everyone, I'm sure everyone back here was doing the same, and the real fight fans would have been doing the same as well, because it was such a brave effort. And don't forget that Junto Nakatani could be the next Inoue. I'm not talking about the monster where he's demolishing people left, right, and centre, but a dominant champion like Inoue is, or Inoue, however you want to pronounce his name. This guy could be a dominant champion for a long, long time, because I really can't see anyone that beats him. I think if he fought the likes of Estrada and Chocolatito, I think he beats those guys. So, and Franco. Look, they could have probably gone an easier route and maybe got an easier title fight, but just like Jason did when he fought in a way, he said, hey, I want the belt. I'm going to fight the best fighter available. So I can't, take my hat off enough to Andrew Maloney, because it was such a brave effort. Andy, g'day, mate. Gave it his best and literally went out on his shield. He certainly did, mate. He certainly did. It was just a sickening punch, wasn't it? What have we got there? Batman. Just scrolling through the comments there. And Andy, congratulate us. Andy, congratulations, Jason. Yeah, as I said before, mate, tends to get a little bit lost, doesn't it? The whole Jason situation. But look, I just thought he boxed beautifully. I will touch on the Jason thing. I know. I did mention it in the videos that we did, how disgusted I was in the fight fans in Stockton. Now, I was warned that in those types of cities they can get a bit loose, but to see the abuse and vitriol and that was thrown at Jason for fighting the perfect fight, I just couldn't get my head around. Poor old Georgia, his wife, was at ringside. She was distressed a little bit because they were yelling things at her, and I mean she was okay. Everyone was around. There was no drama, but poor old Jason, he just won the belt. He was pretty much pushed out of the ring by the Top Rank or ESPN representative in there. Pretty much pushed. He didn't even get an interview after the fight. Pretty much get out. We've got to get the main event on. I felt for him that, and then to get out and be yelled at and abused and booed and everything by the crowd. Back to his all the way back to his change room. I thought was just pathetic, to be honest. And look, I must admit, watching from ringside, and again, big thanks to Mike Altamura, by the way, for some great tickets. So thank you very much, and Top Rank who helped out as well. But I remember watching it and scoring it. I thought, I've got this probably 8 rounds to 4. It might even be 9 rounds to 3. I thought Astrolabio, look, he tried hard. He threw some bombs, but Jason just boxed beautifully. Didn't really get hit with anything of note. I just thought he put on a perfect clinical display to win that fight easy. And then talking to people after the fight that actually knew a little bit about boxing, by the way, I was pretty unanimous that Jason had won pretty comfortably. So I didn't really take much from those peanuts in the crowd. But, and again, I did say in my video, they were the footy crowd. They go there and get on the piss and yell and scream and just want knockouts. They were the ones that were booing. So I'm sure Jason would have taken it with a grain of salt. But, it did take a little bit away from Jason's win, unfortunately. Jules, 12th round of Andy's fight aside, I thought Angelo was really impressive in the corner over both fights. It got me thinking, who are the top 10 pound-for-pound trainers in Australia? Very good point. Jules, I might actually do that at some stage. I am doing tonight, but I think I mentioned at the start, the under 25 top 10. I'm going to do that. Might even do the Australian top 10 as well, because I can't remember who asked me that last time. It was pretty tough doing the under 25 too. Look, again, I haven't watched the whole fight back, so I didn't see it, Jules, but my wife actually commented after the fight how impressed she was with Angelo in the corner as well. Again, I haven't watched the replay, so I don't know. But look, there's a reason why he's one of the best trainers, not only in Australia but the world. I was so impressed in the training camp as well, because Angelo can be a bit out there. He really can. He can be a bit loose sometimes, and a little bit of yin and yang sort of going on. But as a trainer, so much respect for him. To see him in action, I mean, I'd seen him do some pads and that with the boys before, but never anything really tactical. More so just a bit in camp or being there and doing a little bit of work. But to see them fight week, putting the finishing touches on the strategy for the fight, the way he talked to the fight, both the boys, the way he talked to his team, the way he even spoke to us. He actually took time, numerous times, in the middle of his discussions with the boys about tactics. He would then actually turn to us, because we're just sitting there, of course, taking it all in, and actually explain it to us as well, which I thought was just unbelievable insight. And the guy, he knows what he's talking. He's a genius when it comes to this sort of stuff. And look, I've had my ups and downs with Angelo over the years, I will say, when I was promoting the boys, but as you do. But as a trainer, full respect to Angelo. And as I said, to see him in fight week mode with the boys, there's a reason why these boys look up to him so much, and no coincidence why they both were there. And having said that too, Brian Butler was a massive part of their careers as well. But I think Angelo's really put the icing on the cake for the boys. So thanks again to Angelo and Tony Tolge, who couldn't do enough for us over there, and even did the live from over there that you would have seen as well. Andy, Tyson Fury gets my props for accomplishments, but I can't stand him. Well, he's up and down, around in circles, BS talk. Well, I'm with you, mate. I love Tyson Fury, but how much bullshit can one guy talk? I mean, he knows how to play the game, doesn't he? I think he was just taking the piss in the end. I thought he really just decided to come to Australia to support Joseph Parker, and then thought, let's see how much shit I can talk to these guys and how much they're going to believe. I mean, you get in front of the press and say, they're talking about Jai Pattaya and then Sonny Bill Williams and then Paul Gallen, and then it was Dempsey McKean, and to the point where we've got social media sites here interviewing Jai and Dempsey, about possible fights, and of course they're like, yep, let's go, and you've got the rival promoters even at each other about who he's going to fight, and I just don't think he's probably going to fight either one of them. I mean, if he does fight in Australia, my money would be on Dempsey McKean, I will say. I don't think Jai, he's a cruiserweight. I don't really think he's probably got he's definitely got the runs on the board, but I'm just not sure whether he's got the appeal out there that Tyson Fury is going to be looking at. Whereas Dempsey McKean, big, strong, heavyweight. I think he'll, Queensland boy, even though I think Jai's actually New South Wales, but Dempsey McKean, Queensland boy, very appealing. I think he would be the one that they would look at for that fight. But again, how many fights and years has Tyson Fury got left in him? I mean, if he fights Dempsey McKean, with all due respect to Dempsey, but it's a bit of a keep busy fight, tune-up fight, has absolutely no relevance to the overseas supporters or fight fans. You read all the overseas fight forums, and a lot of them aren't interested in that fight at all. I know it'd be big in Australia. My biggest question about him fighting in Australia is whether we can pay for it. Now, this is a guy that's used to getting 30, 40, $50 million for his fights. Now, can Australia conjure up that type of coin for Tyson Fury? I mean, that could be a $30 million event. We're not talking even, the biggest fight, in my opinion, was Pacquiao and Horn. Pacquiao got 10. I think Jeff got a couple of million. That might have been a $15 million fight. A lot of it subsidised by the Queensland government. Are they going to stump up another $15 to $20 million to make that fight happen? I'm just not sure where the money comes from. Even though Queensland or Melbourne, whoever it might be, would want to have someone like Tyson Fury here, they've still got to crunch the numbers. They've got to get the committees together, and I mean, they're accountable to everyone just like any other businesses. They've got to justify the spend. And would the people of Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland, whoever it might be, see it justified to spend $30, maybe $40 million on bringing Tyson Fury here? I'm not quite sure they're going to get the return. Yes, they'll get a lot of people come to Australia, get a little bit of notoriety on the state or city. I'm just not sure whether they can justify that amount of money. That's the type of money that they put into, the Grand Prix and tennis and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, we'll see what happens. But it'd be great to have him here. I just think sometimes he likes to take the piss, to be honest. And I'm with you, Andy. Sometimes it makes him hard to like him. Batman, how are you, mate? I would think Fury could easily do a stadium in Australia. He probably could, Batman. I think he could definitely fill a 50,000-seat stadium, no problem. And we did it already with Pacquiao and Horn. And George Kambosos got 40, I think, in Melbourne. But again, it all just comes down to money. To get 50,000, we can't charge the same amount of money they charge overseas. I'm sure in England they charge good money. At the Pacquiao-Horn fight, they were charging $39 for a general ticket. I know the ringside down would have been a lot more, but the general tickets up in the stand had to be $39 to fill it. Now, talking to Dean Lonigan, who promoted that fight in conjunction with Duco, he told me, he said, when you got your hand out to the governments, whether it be Queensland or cities or whatever, the state or city, whatever it might be, they want to see full stadiums. So he said, we had to take a cut, so we guaranteed the average Joe Blow had no excuse not to go. It's a price of a football ticket. We had to fill the stadium. He said, yes, I would have probably, would have liked to have charged $75 to $100 for those tickets, but he said we would have probably got 25,000 there. The Queensland government would have been going, maybe not next time. So they would have to do similar type of, maybe not that cheap, but it could be $50 or $60, Batman. So can you generate the gate and also the pay-per-views to generate that amount of money? I just don't know. And Horn, Pacquiao, pretty sure the Queensland government might have chucked in 10. They'd have to chuck in double, if not triple that this time. Can they get that amount of money back? I'm not so sure. However, I will say one thing. Sydney, with the new Premier, has now decided to step up the game. They want to get in the market of getting these big events. Melbourne pride themselves on being the home of sport in this country, which they have been for a long time. Sydney want to take that mantle. Queensland have shown a tendency to throw some money at these big events as well. They've got the Tim Zoo fight on the Gold Coast. Could we see a bit of a bidding war for something like this? That's the only way I think it happens, Batman. I just don't see, just saying, hey, we'll just put the event on and here's $20 million. I just can't see it. But anyway, we'll see. Andy, again, what do you got there, mate? Hang on, I'll bring that up there. Tyson Fury, a.k.a. Mr. Greedy Belly, needs to give the fans what we really want. Heavyweight undisputed versus Usyk. I'm not sure that fight happens, Andy. I think he'll fight Joshua. That's my gut feel. I think he sees Usyk He'll never say it publicly. I think he knows that Usyk is a massive threat to him. Now, I know he's a lot smaller, but he's agile. He's had no dramas fighting the likes of Joshua. And a couple of, not in the League of Fury, but a couple of other monsters at that weight. But I think he gives Fury trouble. I 100% think he gives Fury trouble, if not has a chance of beating him. And I got no doubt Fury knows that as well. He wants the Joshua fight. I got no doubt the payday for that fight would be double, at least double what he would get for Usyk. And I think he has a lot better chance of beating Joshua. And I think as far as his legacy goes, does he really need to beat Usyk for his legacy? I know us fight fans will probably judge him a little bit harshly, but I think if he beats Joshua over Usyk, I think his legacy is set. I don't think he really needs to fight Usyk to go down in history as one of the greatest of all time, even though it's a little bit backwards considering that Usyk is the other champion and he beat Joshua. I understand all that, but I think Fury would much prefer to fight Joshua. He's only probably got a couple of years on his in his career. Who knows? It changes by the month sometimes with him. But, I think that will be the fight that will happen later in the year, not the Usyk fight. And I think Usyk's already... Is he in negotiation with Dubois at the moment, I think? So, I think Fury's going to want to fight later this year, and it just makes sense that it's Anthony Joshua. So that would be my bet. Batman again, I agree. I think Junto would beat Bam and Sonny Edwards. Yeah, no question there, mate. Super flyweight, 100%. Carl says Jason's position for the Nito Donaire fight now gives him more bargaining power. Yes. Now, Carl, I think you're the one that's always probably had a little bit of a grudge against Jason for that. I did actually have a good talk to Tony Tolge while I was overseas. And I said, look, Tony, my mate Carl, look, he's a bit pissed at your boy Jason. You haven't given him the lowdown on what's happened. You need to let me know what's happening so I can go back to Carl and let him know what's 100% happened in this situation. Now, his words to me, Carl, just to set the record straight, they wanted the Donaire fight. They went to the WBC convention to get the rating, to get the fight, and Donaire was there as well. Both of them wanted the fight, but unfortunately, the Pro-Bellum and Top Rank thing did not go together. Top Rank refused to deal with Pro-Bellum. I hope they're not watching this, by the way. I don't want to get anyone in trouble. I'm sure they won't be for our few hundred people that end up watching this. But the Top Rank refused to deal with Pro-Bellum because they've got all sorts of issues at the moment, lots of legal dramas all over the place, and there's history there. So they said, you go and do what you do, or what you want to do, but we don't want you to do it. If you know, I'm getting that with that. So that's why the fight didn't happen, which is why they then went to the other one with our number one as WBO and fought Astrolabio, which I thought was still a really, really tough and risky fight. So, but I can't guarantee that fight's going to happen. Carl, I did say, well, now if not Nonito wins the WBC belt, surely they're going to fight each other. And Tony said, I don't know. It all depends on Top Rank. So just wanted to set the record straight there, Carl. I hope you can get a good night's sleep tonight, knowing that the Team Maloney wanted that fight. It was out of their hands. They've got a promotional company who call the shots. That's the way the industry goes. Carl again. Don't worry, mate. I jumped on a heap of panels and said, what's up with the Stockton crowd booing our boy? Yeah, well, I'll be interested to hear what they actually thought, Carl. Because as I said, I haven't heard anyone really... And I always go to the forums where they have all the comments, of course, all the heroes out there love getting on there and commenting. I didn't see one that actually said Australopio won the fight. So that gives me confidence that we're all on the right path. And just because you go after someone and throw haymakers and swing at air and you get your head jabbed off all night doesn't mean you're the winner. So anyway, we'll get past the Stockton crowd. I doubt I'll be back there again. So there you go. I will say, though, apart from the boxing crowd, it was a really pleasant place. It was a little bit, not a little bit, it was very much rough in a certain few areas. So if you ever go there, maybe keep to the main strip. The main place was great. People were friendly. But that boxing crowd, won't be rushing back there in a hurry. So let's hope Jason doesn't have to go back there and defend. Jason dominated. The jab was on point. 100% Batman. He jabbed all night. Of course, the injured hand forced him to do that. But look, it was just an absolute clinical display. I have watched some highlights, but I haven't watched the fight since I've been home. Just to satisfy myself. And I just thought he fought the perfect fight. And the scorecards were ridiculous. They were close, weren't they? Were they close? I think was it 7 rounds to 5 or something like that? I had it 8-4. Might even been 9-3, but anyway. All right. Jay, welcome to the show, mate. Jay Brown. Ben Horn had a bloody big win. I did not see him beating Joel Taylor. Yes, well, let's skip ahead again. The No Limit show. I was so impressed with Ben Horn. I'm a big fan of Joel Taylor. But I think Ben Horn's one of those types of fighters is you just don't know which one's going to turn up. You get the one, I've seen him beaten by, who was it? Benny Kite. It didn't really provide too much that night. I've seen him beaten by other guys, but Nikita Zoo, of course, and now this fight. When he turns up and he's had a good camp, and I don't think actually he even had a good camp against Zoo, did he? But when he turns up in shape, switched on, ready to go, this guy can cause some problems. I think he only had, 5 wins out of 11 or 12 fights. This guy's the ultimate spoiler. And poor old Joel Taylor really didn't know what to make of him. And I must admit, Ben started really well, and I thought Joel will probably adjust and probably make amends. Make adjustments as he goes, and get on top of Ben as the fight went on. But Ben actually grew in confidence, and poor old Joel was just at a loss to do with this guy, and he's so awkward. I would hate to fight someone like him, where he's like his brother, in and out. He leads with his left, he leads with his right, you lead with a hook, you lead with a right uppercut. You just don't know what he's going to do. So brilliant performance by Benny Horn. Will he get the rematch with Nikita? I doubt it. I think Team Zoo, not that they're worried about fighting him again and losing it. That's not the point. I think they're just looking forward. They're not looking back. There's no rematches. We're just looking forward. Okay, Ben put up a really good performance, but in my opinion, what was it, a 6-round fight? I probably had it 5-1, maybe 4-2. He didn't come close to winning the fight, but he gave Nikita a great fight. But that's why I think that Nikita will go, hey, props to you, mate. You gave me a good fight, but I'm moving ahead. So from Benny's behalf, I would love to see him get the opportunity, but I doubt it. I think Team Zoo's on the road ahead, and I doubt whether they'll go back to fighting Benny Horn. But you never know. Great fight though, wasn't it? Really good fight. He dropped Joel Taylor too, which was surprising as well. Yep, Carl, hats off, 100%. A lot of respect for him, mate. Jules, you got these long questions here, mate. You sort of make me think about things. Lynden, you told the story in one of your vlogs about how you first got involved in the Maloney early days. What did you see in them that made you believe they were special? All right, well, I'll tell you exactly what made me think that, Jules. I had a fighter that I briefly worked with back in 2012, just a young amateur, and I sort of just taken him on just to do a little bit of work with. And he'd already, with his previous trainer, been down sparring with the boys. I remember him saying, when discussing sparring, he said, well, I'll go down and do a little bit of work with these brothers in Melbourne. I went, oh, okay, that's good. We'll arrange it. He used to go down by himself, by the way, and he said, well, come down. And I'd met Brian Butler, the trainer, a couple of times, and sort of knew him, just briefly at some of the amateur shows. But we went down there, and pretty much after he kicked the shit out of my fight, they kicked the shit out of my fighter for about 10 rounds. I just looked at these guys and thought, holy shit, these guys are something special. And because my guy could handle himself okay, obviously not in that league, but I just watched them that night and thought, holy shit, who are these guys? They were just unbelievable. And then I think I said in the vlog as well that I sort of got friendly. I was one of the state trainers at the Australian titles, I think the year after. I got to know them pretty well. I used to go down, got friends with, more friendly with Brian Butler, just to go down a little bit, just hang with them, all that sort of stuff. And I wanted to be involved in a sponsorship capacity, but I think you would have seen in that video, I said I didn't really just want the logo on the shirt or whatever. I wanted to spend my money, the way I wanted to sort of spend it, get a little bit more benefit for the boys. So because I've been overseas that many times, I said to Brian, hey, this is my proposal. Rather than sponsor the boys, how about sponsor them with the banner or the shirts or whatever it might be, or buying tables, that sort of stuff. I said, how about I sponsor them to go to the States? And that's what we did in 2015, when a dozen of us went over to LA and Vegas and Oxnard, California. And that's where the boys both sparred Lomachenko. They sparred Gradovich in Oxnard as well. It was just one of those things that, we didn't go over with any plans. It just happened. And I know I've spoken about it a few times, but that's what happened there, Jules. The very first time I saw them spar, I just could not believe how talented these guys were, and I just wanted to be part of it and help them however I could. And that's the way I did it. And as I said at the start of the show, so satisfying to 8 years ago to actually take them over, to see that, to be exposed to all that sort of environment, to then see them in that environment was just so satisfying to myself, Ronnie, Brian Butler, Angelo, the whole team. It was just fantastic. Tony Tolge, everyone. Andy again, I must admit, I half fell for the I want to fight on this continent and be the first heavyweight champion since Jack Johnson. That's about Tyson Fury. Then thought about his asking price and said to myself, bullshit. Well, yeah, I'm with you, mate. Look, I'm sure he takes the piss out of us Aussies. He's a pom, don't forget. They love taking the piss out of the Aussies. I just reckon he's just probably said to one of his mates, let's just see how much bullshit I can feed these guys and see how they respond. I'm not ruling out, though, the Dempsey McKean fight, I will say. I don't think, as I said earlier, I don't think the Jai Pataia fight's happening. I don't think Paul Gallen, Sonny Bill Williams fights are happening unless he fights him on the same night in some sort of, event. But the Dempsey McKean fight would not surprise me, but it would surprise me if that makes sense. If he does decide to fight here, it would be Dempsey. But as I said, I just don't see how they can fund that fight. I really don't, without getting $20 million at least from the Queensland government, but we'll see. Dubois pulled out versus Usyk, I'm sure. Oh, is that right? Injured. Rumours are Wilder as possible replacement. That's a dangerous fight for Usyk, I think. Well, sort of dangerous, I think, unless he gets tagged, but he has shown he's pretty durable and probably like a Michael Spinks pre-Mike Tyson. He fought some pretty big heavyweights as well, but just his speed, his volume of punches. Usyk likes to throw combinations as well. Could sort of give Wilder troubles. He might be a little bit quick. What have we got there? I think you put me off there. It's my wife about the thing here. But, I think Usyk with his combinations, he's in and out punching, gives him a lot of trouble. But the only way I see Wilder winning is that one punch. But I just think Usyk's got enough skills to see it coming. But that would be a great fight. Imagine having Usyk, Wilder, and Fury and Joshua. Oh, that would just be... And on top of all the other big fights I've had this year, just be great. I'm Team Maloney all the way. Unify against Nito for 2 belters. Hope so, mate. Mate, they said from the crowd it looked like Astro Abdiel won. I said, wake up. They said from the crowd. Okay, so fight fans actually on there saying they thought he won. Well, from the stands, like, who knows? But all I'm saying from ringside, I thought Jason won easily. Andy says, disappointed Anita versus Jason wasn't happening, but saw unification as champions will be a bigger fight. Yeah, look, I'm hoping, karma has prevailed here, Andy, and Top Rank says, what's best for our fighter? And that's fighting Donito Donaire. Maybe Donito Donaire will have some dispensation. Maybe he severs ties with Probellum and gets out of that. I know a lot of fighters are getting out of contracts with Probellum because of little loopholes in the contracts, and Probellum haven't been able to deliver. Hopefully that's the case, and it's not an issue. So that's what I'm hoping, that Nonito gets out of his Probellum contract, and then the fight's made very, very easily. Or Top Rank say, okay, well, it's best for our fighter to fight Nonito. Let's make it happen. Who knows? But I'm with you, mate. I would love to see that fight be the next fight for Jason. However, I would maybe also like to see if there's a unification. If Rodriguez wins I think it's the IBF belt, or forgive me if I've missed it, if he's already fought. That would be the fight I would love to see for Jason as well. Avenge that loss to Rodriguez. I think it's a completely different fight this time. I don't think Jason gives him anywhere near as much respect as he gave him 5 years ago. And I think that Jason possibly stops Rodriguez the next time they fought. This thing in the first fight, this is 5 years ago, by the way. Jason, first time to the States, first time world title fight, pro Rodriguez crowd. And he gave away pretty much the first 5 or 6 rounds and then come home like a train. I think if you saw it again, you would see a much different Jason. He would start fast, look to get on top of Rodriguez, and Rodriguez wouldn't have the ability to pretty much run like he did in the last 3 or 4 rounds, and Jason sort of hunting him down. So that's the fight I wouldn't mind seeing if the Donaire fight doesn't happen. Andy, there were casuals there to see Rock'em Sock'em Robots. So that's exactly what was happening, mate. And I'm just saying there were some bloody ferals there, guys. I've seen some feral football crowds in my time, but they took the cake. And yes, Andy, piss poor. That's hitting it on the head there. Jules says, speaking of Nikita Zoo, how long can Glenn stick to the game plan and hold Nikita back? Arguably ahead of Tim after 6 fights. How are they going to find another 10 blokes to fight here? Look, I still think there's a few around, Jules. I don't tend to agree that Glenn's holding him back. And I know there was a lot of the talk about the 8-round thing. Not that it mattered in the end, but I really admired Nikita sticking to his guns and saying, well, this is their plan to fight. This is a 6th round. I wouldn't be surprised if they go the next one to 6 and then step up to 8 after that, or maybe it's 8 fights before they go to 8 rounds. I don't think he's holding him back, Jules. I think you've got to remember that Nikita was out of the ring for 8 years, and this is a completely different sport to amateurs, completely different. And being out for so long, now if they step him up too quick, it means they can't go back. You can't fight an 8-rounder because then you can't really go back to a 6. You can't step up and fight a Colin Mazzutia or a Camilleri or one of these, a Wade Ryan, because then it's hard to go back. I've got no issue at all, Jules. I wouldn't be upset or surprised if they give Nikita 12 fights, so another 6 fights if they can find these local guys, or even bring in a couple of overseas guys if need be, and give him 12 fights. Maybe get him up to 8 fights and then step up to 8 rounds for the next 4, and then get him into a big fight after that. I've got no dramas. I mean, he's only 25 years of age, plenty of time. Is he ahead of Tim at this stage? I don't think he is. I don't think Tim had been out the ring so long. Tim stepped the game up really quick, if you can remember. He fought some pretty good guys early in his career. So I've got no issues with it. I understand where you're coming from, but I don't think he's been held back at all. I think they probably sat down on the whiteboard. They've got a clear trajectory of where they want to take Nikita, and I think under no circumstances, no matter how much they're baited, how much the insults are thrown at them, like the Benjamin Bomber situation, I think they're going to stick to the plans, and that's what I think might happen, is that they'll I might be wrong, maybe the next one might be 8, but that's probably what I could see. Have 8 fights before they step up to an 8-rounder, have 4 8-rounders, and then after the 12th fight, maybe have a couple of 10-rounders or scheduled 10-rounders, and then aim for some big international fights after about 15 fights. I mean, I just don't see the sake of rushing him. It'd be different if he was 27, 28. The guy's 25 years old. So I got no issues at all having another 4 to 6 fights at this sort of standard. And looking at it's a bit unscheduled here, but I'm just going to have a quick look at the ratings of who we could sort of fight. They all want to have a crack at him. I think there's a couple. Is it Biggs and Hill are fighting this month or next month? Let's have a quick look before we continue on. The AMBF ratings. Where are we? If I can see that. National. All right, let's have a look. Coming up there. All right, so I'll bring you guys in with this one. Let's have a look. While we're going here, guys, we'll get that off there. Hang on, we'll get rid of that. All right, super welterweights. Daniel Hill definitely could be an option for an Aussie title. Ben Mahoney, I would think no at this stage. Mazzuti, I would think no. Nagby, I would think no. Biggs, yes. Ryan, maybe. He's awkward. Creative, no. Just, what are you going to gain fighting at him? He's not going to come and win. Cameron Hammond, yeah, that'd be a good fight. Dangerous Cameron Hammond. Tyson Best would be a good one. I'm not sure whether he's still around at the moment. Adrian Rodriguez would be someone I would probably think in the next couple of fights. Tough guy. Experienced. Benjamin Bomber, well, we won't go there. Huda, I would think no. Tough, hard. No, actually, I'll take that back. I think Huda would be a good fight for him. Corey would be a good fight for him. I wouldn't say the young guy that beat Somerville the other night. What was his name? It was Isaias Seti. Yeah, might be. He's only had 3 fights. And Chadwick, I think. Chadwick, he's fighting Rodriguez. So there's probably 3 or 4, I reckon, there, guys, that he could probably fight. It could be a couple of middleweights that might come down. Where's Kamakao? Yeah, he's there. Yeah, look, who knows? Maybe Ty Telford or one of these guys could maybe come up. I don't know. But I reckon there's still, at least 2 or 3 guys from the fight there that he could get in with and give him a pretty good fight. So we'll see. All right, we'll keep going with the comments there. Ronnie, what do you got there, mate? Hey, Jules, I know Lynden can speak for himself, but it was after our camp in the USA in 2015. Could see the quality of boys, not only as boxers, but human beings. I'm assuming there, mate. Yeah, took the words out of my mouth there, mate. I mean, look, I will say it didn't take a rocket scientist to realise the boys could fight. But you could just see, and Ronnie was there before I got associated with the boys, just how special they were. Being a lot of gyms all over the world, of course, being at the international level myself, as an amateur, seeing elite fighters, these guys are elite fighters. You could just see that straight away. So, as I said, wasn't an expert to pick it out, but I just see that I'd never seen Australian talent like this since the likes of Lester and Jeff Fennick and these types of guys. So, I prefer the chat print on screen to be white. I don't know what I've done there, Andy. I will attempt to fix that, but I don't know what I've done. I don't know. I'll try and fix it afterwards. Can't really see in black as lost in background yet. Sorry about that, Andy. I will try and fix it, but as I said, I'm not quite sure what I've done. Hang on. Let me have a look. Hang on. Let's see if I can fix it. Hey, there we go. How's that? Geez, it's amazing what you can do when you put your mind to it. All right, so there it is. That's pretty cool. I can play with that. Just realise that then. All right, okay. Dan P, how are you, mate? Welcome to the show. And we can see your comment there, which is even better. No way Dempsey deserves a fight with Fury. It would be a disgrace to sanction that fight. Hasn't even fought someone in the top 100. Pretty hard to argue with that, Dan. But sometimes it comes down to more than do they deserve the fight or not. It comes down to money or dollars and cents, as they say. But it would surprise me. But as I said, if anyone's going to fight him from Australia, I would have my money on Dempsey McKean. Whether he deserves it or not is another question that you guys out there can debate. Andy, so Carl says he was struggling to see up at the screen at the start of the show. Yes, he was. What do we got there? Oh, there you go. There you go. Tara, that's my wife. I'm the lurker in the background. She lets me know if there's anything wrong with the telecast. So, yeah, quality control. But we fixed it. That's the main thing. Andy says, totally agree there, Lynden Rodriguez. If no, Nonito's. Yep, Nonito. Jay Brown, the Full Zoo undercard for the Gold Coast looks pretty good, along with Sam Goodman, has Hamden, Vegas, Larfield, Rocky Ogden, and a few others should be good. I'll check that as we're going there, guys. I'll just take your comment off the screen. Where are you? I'm going to go back to that. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to put in box rec, and we'll go see if the entire... where are we? The entire fight card is on, because I haven't had a chance to really go over it, I must admit. Tim Zoo's on the box rec as the Soul Taker. That's his official nickname, is it? All right, let's have a look here. We're jumping around a bit here, guys, but we'll continue at it. All right, so you've got Sam Goodman, Raiz Alim. That'll be a really, really good fight. That's a big step up for Sam Goodman. I did see, and Liam Wilson out. Obviously, he's off that. Justin Frost, Hassan Hamden, good fight. Really good fight. Again, I'm not across all this, guys. Not quite sure about Hassali Hepi and Troy Pilcher. No idea about those. Vegas Larfield, great prospect, 8-0 against, we'll call him Castino. Not quite sure about him, but should be a good one. Rocky Ogden, Mark Schleves. I know a bit about Mark Schleves. Really, really good young fighter. Just has a lot of opportunity. Probably from the Kane Clark sort of school of, good young fighter, but hasn't really had those tests, and now he's about to. Of course, he lost to Brock Jarvis, but this is good for him. Rocky Ogden, good young prospect, and I'm not quite sure about that. So, yeah, and then, of course, the main fight, Tim Tszyu, Carlos Ocampo. So, look, it would have been great if Liam Wilson had been on the show. But, yeah, look, maybe they might add one more fight. I don't know, Jay, but for me, I reckon one more quality fight would probably top that off. Then they're going to get a massive pay-per-view for it. So having Sam Goodman on there, as I said, Liam Wilson would have topped that card off. But even though Justin Frost and Hamden is a good fight, Larfield and Castino's not a bad fight either. And Ogden, Schliebs. I would like to see maybe one more fight. Maybe an Isaac Hardman on there. Might be a bit too soon for him. Someone, I just think they need one more fight there, to be honest with you, Jay. But we've still got, 4 weeks to go, 3 weeks to go, so maybe they might pop somebody. I don't know. But look, worst case, we all pay our money to see Tim Tszyu anyway, so maybe people won't care. But I would like to see one more fight on that card, but we'll see. Yeah, Carl. Let's get on to the last card. Two one round KOs in the main and co-main showed our average card was. Ben Norton was a highlight night for me. Let's get into the card, Carl. All right, I'm going to bring up why we're going here. I for one wasn't impressed with the card at all. I will say though, I'll eat a little bit of humble pie. I did say that every fight on that card was so predictable it wasn't funny. Didn't turn out that way. We'll go through the fights as we're going. Quick review of the fights. Yeah, I'll just take your comment off, Carl. All right, so let's run through them. I'll get to that footy fight in a minute. Luke Gersbeck, Jack Moore, wasn't a bad fight, I thought, but again, predictable. Campbell, Somerville, Isaiah, Seti. Now that, for me, I did expect Somerville to win that fight easy. Holy shit, that guy showed some ticker. But Seti really surprised me. Good young fighter, got some real skills. And I didn't really know much about him, I will say. I know a little bit about Campbell. I've promoted him before. But he did surprise me with his skill. And I just thought, if you're looking for an opponent that is all wrong for Campbell Somerville, this was the guy. Someone that had really good skills, had a bit of pop in his punches, good movement. I thought was a wrong type of fighter for Campbell. Campbell just tends to, if you watch him fight, he just comes forward, doesn't really show a lot of defense. I will say it's just full steam ahead. Let's see who can outwork who. I would really love to see this as a wake-up call for Campbell and his team. He needs to get some more defensive skills in his skill set, just to come forward, marching forward, just throwing 150 punches around is not going to get the job done against skillful fighters. And I just worry that if he fights someone a little bit more experienced as Seti, and has a bit more pop in his punches, it might not end well for Campbell. And to see what he did in just 4 rounds against Campbell, it was a tough watch. And I'm hoping that Campbell and his team go back and work on this, because they really need to get a little bit of head movement going, get those hands up, and you don't have to throw 150 punches around to win the round. And that might have worked in the amateurs. It's not going to work in the pros, because they'll just pick you off. And as the fight goes on, when there's more fatigue gets into it, and you take a lot more punishment, that's when the danger is there, as we saw with Andy taking a lot of punishment over 12 rounds. This is only a 5-round fight. Got a lot of respect for Campbell. He's a great guy. Jerry Murphy's a good trainer, but I just implore him to go back and work on his defense a little bit more, and just not go for work rate all the time. Go just for picking the punches a little bit more. Easier said than done out here. Probably the way he's fought his whole career. But I just don't like to see it, because it's not going to end well for Campbell. I don't think, if he keeps fighting that way as the opposition improves. But I did hear he recovered pretty well. They took him to the hospital, so all the best for Campbell going forward. And Seti, really good young fighter, and I think he might have a pretty good future. David Nyika, Louis Masters, well, enough said of that one. It ended exactly the way it was always going to. He did last a couple of rounds longer than he did in the first fight. The Jade Mitchell, Max Reeves one was the other one that didn't really go to plan. I expected Jade to outbox him over 8 rounds. This has got an asterisk beside it, of course, because it was awarded a TKO to Max Reeves. I've got no doubt they'll probably turn this over, and it will be a no contest or a draw, whatever you want to call it, after 2 rounds. My opinion was it was headbutts, but the referee didn't have a great night, did he, Ignatius? But I just thought there was too much going on. I thought it was headbutts that caused it. Ignatius, and obviously thought differently. So we'll see what happens there. But Max Reeves, good young fighter. I think they'll do it again, of course. Maybe it's probably a little bit too early with the Tim Tszyu show, but with the cuts on Jade. But I'm sure they'll do it again in the near future. The Joel Taylor Ben Horn fight, I admit I was wrong. I expected Joel Taylor to pretty much play with Ben Horn for 6 rounds and win a clear-cut decision. I take that. I was wrong. And as I said earlier in the show, full respect to Ben Horn, a great win for him. Then into Nikita Tszyu, Benjamin Bomber. Whoa. I've said before on this show, I'm a big believer in it. It was actually the slogan of one of my old companies. If you talk it up, you got to back it up. And oh my, Benjamin Bomber found that out the hard way, didn't he? If that's ever been a classic case of talk it up, you got to back it up. That was it. Now, I actually thought in the first half of the round, I know it's only half a round, I get that, he actually didn't look too bad. He caught Nikita with a couple of good shots, one particular counter right hand. I thought, whoa, that's a beautiful shot, and actually got Nikita's attention. But Nikita, as you know, the excellent fighter that he is, I'm sure he's going to be a very, very good fighter going forward, of course. Could be a great fighter, who knows. Just took it on the chin, literally. Refocused, adjusted, waited for his opportunity, and then that right uppercut from hell came through and pretty much obliterated Benjamin Bomber. And then the follow-up punch, it probably should have been a count, by the way, which probably would have suited Benjamin Bomber, because if you saw it, Ignatius didn't get in there and call it an 8 count, didn't call it a knockdown, which he should have done. The ropes held him up, so it should have been called a knockdown. He didn't do it, which then caused him to cop more punishment. Probably even another knockdown could have been called. I think his glove might have touched the canvas. I can't remember, but definitely after that first knockdown, and then he was. Well, I'll say he was saved by Ignatius, but Ignatius probably did as much damage as what Nikita did by tackling him to the count. It was almost like a spear drop in WWE, wasn't it? It was quite hilarious. He got himself in the wrong position, Ignatius, and wasn't in a position to call a halt when he should have, and ended up having to pretty much pull Benjamin Bomber down on him. Now, as I said, that almost cost Benjamin Bomber any chance of maybe recovering, because if he had had that 8 count when he should have been called after hitting the bottom rope, he would have had an 8 count to recover, and then who knows what might have happened. But it was all just a blur after that, because after he got rocked a couple of times, it was just a barrage of punches, and Ignatius had absolutely no excuse not to stop the fight. He had to stop it. And poor old Benjamin Bomber had to go back to the change room with his tails between his legs. I got a feeling he might have stayed off social media for a few days after that. And his cornerman, I was actually on the flight of his cornerman when he came over here. I actually had a talk to, I can't remember his name actually. I actually had a good talk to him at Top Rank Gym. We were watching Andy train one day, and he said he was coming over and he's going to be in Benjamin Bomber's corner. And they had a really good plan for Nikita and all the rest of it. And as I said, he was on my flight coming over. Now, he didn't see the vlogs. I was actually delayed a day. I was supposed to be home on the Tuesday, didn't get home till the Wednesday. The poor guy would have got back on the day of the fight. And I felt like shit that night, a little bit fatigued and jet lagged, whatever you call it. So I'm just thinking what he would have gone through, having to probably go back for a quick sleep during the day, have to get to the arena, tape his hands, go in the corner, all that sort of stuff. Obviously, he didn't have a lot to do. And that's what I was thinking of all that time, is that, holy shit, he didn't even get a chance to have one in between rounds with the guys, flying all the way from Vegas to Melbourne, and he's got 2 minutes here. He would have flown out the next day. He literally was here overnight, so the poor guy. But anyway, before I get on to, I'll get on to the main fight first. Joseph Parker, Opaloo, enough said. I thought Joseph Parker might have played with him for 5 or 6 rounds to give everyone a bit of a show. Opaloo or Django is brave, but did not belong in the same ring with Joseph Parker, and that's what happened. So really a big anticlimax, I thought. I wasn't impressed with the card at all, I will say. Loved the Nikita Tszyu fight. Loved the Ben Horn performance. And respect to Seti, but sorry. I paid the $60 because that's what I love. You got to watch it and review it, and of course, everyone the next day is asking, "What did you think?" I understand all that, but was it worth $60? Hell no, if you ask me. The one thing I will say about, I've left one fight out there, as you can see there, Cameron Mooney, Tom Bell Chambers. Look, what I will say, watching that fight, I'm worried about this whole footballer, YouTube, influencer bullshit that we're seeing at the moment. Because I've got a real fear at some stage someone's going to get really hurt, and I'm talking really hurt, and that could have happened the other night. yes, we have a bit of a laugh about the two footy players getting in there and bashing each other and one getting knocked out. But there were some big punches being thrown. And full respect to both guys for getting in there. And any of these influencers or YouTubers or footy players, I'm not talking about the courage to be in there. Full respect to anyone that gets in there. I've said that numerous times. But there's got to be a point where this is knocked on the head because it's almost enough is enough. That fight there, as I said, Bell Chambers, they'd only been fighting 3 weeks by the way. Training for 3 weeks. So it could have been him on the receiving end. But, you know, there were some big punches. And Mooney, I mean, he could have been seriously hurt. And you see all these, there's a pretender contender thing they do, and the YouTube thing, and all these different events all over the world, by the way, not just here. I don't like it. I think it's only a matter of time before someone gets knocked out badly and maybe like seriously hurt. You know, call me old-fashioned, you know, whatever you want to call me, overreacting, but I don't like it. The fact that they can allow a fighter, regardless of who he is and what he is, 3 weeks to get in there and fight. Now, yes, he won here. I understand that. 3 weeks to allow him to fight. I don't get it. I really don't get it. And I think the combat boards have got to police this a little bit more rigorously because I've dealt with the combat board just in Victoria, by the way. Full respect to the guys. They're really good people. They do a good job. But the amount of mismatches I've seen happen along the journey, these guys are employed to vet these fighters. They get the card. I'll tell you how it works. You get a sheet. You got to write down their name, their record, their trainer, all that sort of stuff. You submit it to the combat board. They're supposed to go over it and come back with any issues or questions or whatever it might be, and then you go from there. Now, I've never had one fighter ever knock back, and I see some of the absolute ridiculous mismatches on other events around the country. Not saying didn't have any mismatches on our shows, but it was never intentional. I've seen some hideous or horrendous mismatches on other cards around the country. So my question is, are the combat boards doing enough to vet these cards and do their job and say enough is enough? How they let Tom Bell Chambers, I know he won, 3 weeks to get in there and fight. That unfortunate in this situation, but who's to say that another YouTuber or influencer does the same thing and trains for 3 weeks and doesn't have the size and power of a Bell Chambers and actually gets in there with someone that's probably been training maybe a year or 2 years and gets knocked out badly? I don't like to see. I've seen too much around the world from fighters who are pretty much vegetables now, and these are seasoned fighters to what could happen to these novices or amateurs. So I don't like it. Enough is enough. I know it sells pay-per-views and gets some media attention, but if we haven't, especially here in Australia, if we haven't got to the point, I'm not just singling No Limit out here, but we haven't got to the point where No Limit, their shows aren't strong enough to stand on their own 2 feet without a bloody footy fight or influencer fight in there. I mean, come on, boys. Enough is enough. You're kidding yourselves. So just my 2 cents anyway. And what do we got? Yes, Carl. Yeah, he's talking about Nikita Zoo. Yeah, he's the middleweight. That's not a good fight for Nikita. Well, I wouldn't have thought at this stage, but you never know. Yes, Andy, smash that like button. Thank you. Adam Kelly, how are you, mate? G'day to you. Thanks for joining in the show. Andy, again, I've probably got a few comments to get through here. Sorry, guys. Still Timmy Tiger in my book. Yep, so the Soul Taker. I don't like that. I don't like that nickname. I'm sorry. Can't wait to see him versus the Lion in Jamal Charlo if it ever happens. Yeah, Timmy the Tiger. I don't know. I don't know. The Soul Taker. I like the fact they call him, you know, the fighter that, you know, he's the Soul Taker in a metaphor type of sense. But for an actual nickname, yeah, I don't like that one. Carl Glenn, if you're watching out there, let's get Timmy Timmy the Tiger, whatever it might be. But yeah, I'd like a better nickname than that. What do we got there? Cards screaming out for Isaac Hardman. There you go. You back me up there, Jules. It's perfect for him, and he's probably ready to go. I'm sure there's some fighters out there. Quick look at the middleweights. Hang on, we're going to jump around again here. Where is he? Middleweight. Who have we got? Well, Zarafa's obviously off the table. Singh, I'm not quite sure. That's the fight they want on short notice. Kamakayo, I wouldn't be surprised if it happens later in the year. Say on the lookout. But here's take him off that and put him on against Hardman. That's a good fight to watch. But anyway, we'll wait to see what happens there. But I would love to see Isaac Hardman on the card, mate. I'm with you. Yeah, Jules again. Can't believe the damage that he did to Somerville. He was in a really bad way. Yeah, he was like both eyes swollen. His head would have just been ringing, a lot of blood. Like for that happened in 4 rounds, and it wasn't like he was out of his depth or getting battered. It was just the accumulation of punches. He just didn't miss. I see his head getting snapped back, time and time again. Oh, I just didn't like to see it. But anyway. Jules Masters is another whose corner needs to look at the way he's managing fights. Not skilled enough to fight the way he does. Or he's not big enough either, Jules. Not big enough, not skilled enough. And I just think, I've seen the people talk about it. I think I might have had Peter Maniatis on this show a while back saying, he models himself on Tyson and he can punch. Hey, that's great. But not if he's getting stopped by these guys. He's not skilled enough to fight someone like this Niyika. Was that his name? Niyika. Hang on, where... Anyway, what was his name? Hang on. Nayika, yeah. So, not skilled enough to fight those guys. They've got to pull him back. I know it's great fighting on these big shows and testing yourself against these types of guys, but not where you're just getting stopped every single fight. I know he's entertaining, but I don't know. I'd like to see maybe his team pull him back. And look, he always turns up. He always has a crack. But look, if you put him on these pay-per-views all the time, fight fans, here we go, this bloke again going to get bashed by the young prospect. So let's hope he either gets maybe some schoolwork with another team, whatever it might be, or they pull him back as far as the level of competition he's fighting, because Niyika was 10 levels above him. G'day, Matt. How are you, Matt? The ref Ignatius had an absolute shocker that night. He did, poor old Ignatius. Now, he obviously had the Joseph Parker stoppage. He had the Jade Mitchell fight. He had wasn't so bad in the actually looks like he was a referee nearly every single fight. I know Tony Moretta had a couple as well. Nikita and Benjamin Bomber, of course. Yeah, it wasn't a great night for him, but anyway, he is a good referee, a good guy. We've got to cut him some slack, and it's not like referees growing trees around here, guys. So, James Mahoney is step up for Nikita. Huni stepping up next opponent. Yeah, he is. Yeah, I think at this stage, look, I think Nikita beats Mahoney or Mahoney, however you want to pronounce it, but that would be a pretty tough fight. I just think that's, again, as I said before, like the trajectory of Nikita. I would think Mahoney or I'm going to call him Mahoney because that's the way I've always sort of described him or called him. I would think that's around his 10th fight. I would be looking at Mahoney and a Mazudia, maybe a Kamakeo after 12 or 13. Who are some of the other guys at super welterweight? Victor Nagby, yeah, I'm not sure he's the type of guy you want to mess with. I know he lost his last fight, but he's got a big combat in kickboxing or Muay Thai, whatever it was. I would like to see, I'll tell you what, apart from who he fights the next maybe 2 fights, being up to 8, I'd like to see him fight Kyle Mazudia. And then I would like to see him fight Marnie. I think Mazudia is probably 1 level below Marnie. But I think that would be a good fight for him. And then after Mazudia, fight Marnie and then maybe step it up to a Kamakeo after that. But he looks like he might fight Hardman. So anyway. Adam, who is actually left in Australia for Nikita to fight anyone that's decent? Yeah, we sort of went through them before, mate. Daniel Hill, Ben Marnie, Cole Mazudia, Victor Nagby maybe, Dylan Biggs, Wade Ryan, Cameron Hammond maybe. Adrian Rodriguez is definitely one I think they'll target. And ankle shooter. So I'm looking at that. I'm looking at Huda. I'm looking at Rodriguez. I'm looking at Biggs. I'm looking at Mazudia and Marnie and Hill. There's 6. So, and they all want to fight him. So still plenty of guys out there for him, I think. I would say. All right, quick one, guys. What did you think of the Haney-Lomachenko fight? Who did you think won the fight? If you don't know, I've got a video at the moment. I'm going to put the link up. If I'll just get my voice. I'm going to put up the link at the moment. If you want to check it out, it's my What's Your Verdict of Haney-Lomachenko. So check it out. It's in the link now, so just click on it. I did go for Loma 7 rounds to 5, so 115, 113. That was my verdict in the end. The Instagram poll was 71% for Lomachenko. So work that one out. And I will say, I think Tassie might have voted on that and went for Haney, but I can tell you after the fight, he 100% Lomachenko won. So I'm going to put it up to 75% to 25%. But don't tell him I said that. Don't think he watches this show anyway. I might call him out on it on Thursday night. But yeah, that was my cards, guys. 115, 113 for Lomachenko. I did say on the video as well, it's the most skillful elite fight I've ever seen live, ever. I'm not sure what it looked like on TV. I haven't seen it apart from doing the videos for my What's Your Verdict episode. But the skill of these two guys, both of them are lightning quick, reflexes like leopards, the speed, the movement, the tactics of both fighters. Brilliant fight. Now, I'm not a massive Devin Haney fan, I will say, but that's the best I've ever seen Devin Haney fight. But in my opinion, it wasn't enough. Probably the best Lomachenko fight I've probably seen in probably 4 years, I think. Just a brilliant fight. Haney had his moments, don't get me wrong. And it was amazing to score the fight. I had my phone that I scored on the night. Just after each round, I would put down who I thought won the round. I had 5, if not 6 rounds different live on the highlights or watching the video. So that was really interesting. But I still had exactly the same score, 115, 113 for Lomachenko. I had exactly the same score watching it on the night. Just a few rounds were a little bit different. Surprisingly, on the night, I actually thought Haney might have won the 10th round, but that's probably the one round, looking back, that was probably Lomachenko's most dominant round. So I don't know what the hell I was thinking. But watching it back on YouTube, 100% thought Lomachenko won that round and won the fight. And I really feel for him. You see, obviously, afterwards how upset he was. Let's hope Haney gives him another shot. I'm not quite sure Haney's going to want to run that one back. I think he's going to look at fights against either Davis or Shakur Stevenson or maybe even Garcia. Who knows? But but so full of admiration for Lomachenko. Fought a brilliant fight, turned back the clock. And as I said, my opinion was he won that fight. Andy has it, 115, 113. Good stuff, mate. Adam, that's about Tyson Fury. Who knows, mate, whether he's in talks with Dempsey McKean. Your guess is as good as mine. He's in talks with everyone, mate. Just ask him. Andy, again, great quality and enjoyable fight. This is Haney and Lomachenko. It was close, yes, it was close, mate. I had Loma, but not jump up and down about it. Rematch would be nice, but doubt it happens. Yeah, I'm with you there, Andy. I thought it was close enough to warrant heated discussion. I thought it could have even been a draw, worst case. But as I said, I'm not quite sure Haney did enough to win. For me, it would have been worst case a draw, but so many of those rounds were like so close. And it depends on whether you give the close rounds to the champion or the one who's probably pushing the pace a little bit more. But Lomachenko, clear-cut punches in volume. I just thought he did enough to win, especially those later rounds. I think I might have had it even after 8 or 9 rounds. I thought Lomachenko come home pretty well. I did give Haney the 12th round, but up to that point I had it 7 rounds to 4, so it was really obsolete. So, but the judges supposedly know best. But Dave Moretti, 116, 112, 8 rounds to 4. You are kidding, mate. And he's got form, that guy. So, not a fan of Dave Moretti. But look, great night of fights, I will say. The atmosphere in the arena was just electric. Everyone was just on the edge of the seats the whole night. It was so back and forth. I don't think there were many rounds, probably maybe midway through or maybe later in the fight, where there were multiple rounds, one in a row. It was just back and forth the whole fight, and just a great fight. And as I said before, the most joyful to watch as far as skill goes. I remember watching live Floyd Mayweather take Canelo Alvarez to school back in 2013. That was probably the best boxing display I've ever seen by a fighter live. But to see two fighters of just so great of skill set was just awesome to see live. And I'm sure, obviously, on pay TV or pay-per-view, whatever it is, would have been great. But to see two just absolute geniuses in person was awesome. All right, guys, so I've gone over the Maloney trip, the Haney Lomachenko card, I think, unless you've got some other comments there, the no limit card. I did promise in the last episode to do we'll do them quickly. We've still got sort of 10 minutes or so We might just do one of them, the under 25 top 10. Now, I will say this was extremely hard because to find the birth dates of all the elite fighters of Australia was really hard, whether it be on the box rec or Wikipedia or Facebook pages, you name it. I searched everywhere. I'm not 100% sure on the ages. I'm pretty sure, but not 100%. Pull me up if you think I'm wrong. But I'm going to put it up here and go through them. The under 25 top 10. This is just the males, of course, and let me know what you think. All right, so my Australian under 25 top 10, if I've got some of these wrong as far as ages goes, let me know. If I've forgotten someone, let me know. But you are, so here's my little list here. So I've got Justice Honey at number 1. I've got Sam Goodman at number 2. I've got Nikita Zoo at number 3. Harry Garside at number 4. Stevie Spark at number 5, Brock Jarvis at number 6. Now, when I say under 25, I'm saying 25 and under, so they're allowed to be 25. So Brock Jarvis at 6, Dana Coolwell at 7, Alex Winwood. I saw this guy live over there. Great guy. He's only had 2 or 3 fights, I think. This guy, in my opinion, will be a world champion. Watched him train all week in training camp with the boys. Great guy. And I think, and a great fighter. So keep a lookout for Alex Winwood. I think he's fighting next month on the Dragonfire card. So if you're in Perth, make sure you check it out. Vegas Larfield, number 9, and Hassan Hamdan, number 10. Now, understandably, some of these guys only had 2, 3, 4 fights. This was really tough to find elite fighters under 25 years of age. Now, you will say maybe number 5, Stevie Spark. How could you possibly have Harry Garside and even Nikita Zoo above him? Look, my rationale of Stevie Spark is, hey, good fighter, had the win over Montana Love, but it was a disqualification win, so I've got to have an asterisk. I'm sorry, it's got to have an asterisk beside that fight, as does his last fight, where I thought he won the fight and got ripped. I just think Harry Garside, like not just Harry Garside, but all these fighters in the top 10, you've almost got to have a little bit of gut feel about ability to experience to just a little bit of everything thrown into one. So that's why I've got him at number 5. Harry Garside, I don't know what's happening with Harry going forward, but an elite talent. Nikita Zoo, what else do we have to say about him? Sam Goodman's probably got a few more runs on the board and is taking a really tough fight in the next one. He'll probably fight for a world title maybe in the next 12 months. And Justice Hoodie, I just think, is just a generational talent. Unbelievable fighter. Brock Jarvis is on the way back. Probably, what's he had, 25 fights, whatever it has been, but probably only the one rule quality fight, and he lost that fight, so I've got him at number 6. Dana Coolwell, I think he'll had a couple of setbacks early in his career, so he's on his way back now, but a great young talent. I've mentioned Alex Winwood. Vegas Larfield, what is he, 19 or 20? This kid could be a superstar as well, so we'll keep an eye on him. And Hassan Hamdan, Jeff Fennick fighter, who shows a bit as well. But as I said, guys, this is a really, really tough one to do. You got some comments on that, let me know, but it wasn't easy. I hope that's that sort of satisfies you guys to some extent, but make of it what you will. What do we got here? Jules says, I like your list. How far outside of your list was Jalen Tate? Would love to see Tate versus Garside fight one day. Now, Jules, he would have been in my top 10, but I just could not find anywhere how old he was. If he's under 25, well, I'll put him in straight away. Great young talent. Not outside my list. He would be on my list. I just couldn't find. I checked his Facebook. I checked his box rec. I checked Wikipedia. I just don't know how old he is, and I wasn't going to guess. So if he's under 25 or 25 and under, I would probably have him at probably number 7. I would probably think. I think he would push Hassan Hamdan out, and then the others 3 would drop down. I would have him at number 7 behind Brock Jarvis, Stevie Spark, etc. Tate Garside would be an awesome fight, mate. Give him a good chance against Harry Garside, but apologies if he's under or 25 and under. I just couldn't find his information, mate. But to answer your question, he would be at number 7 if I had been able to find his age. If there's anyone else, let me know. Plenty of young fighters out there, some excellent fighters. I just couldn't find them the information. I'll quickly do. Actually, I might leave the. What have we got there? Box rep ratings have pound for pound option where you can see ages of fighters you can sort by Australia. Oh, there you go. Okay. We might do that next time, I reckon, mate. Okay, there you go. There you go. Let's have a look before we go. We've got a minute or 2 to go. We'll get you guys in on the situation here. Okay, all right, there. All right, so they've got the ages there. Oh yeah, 29. Who are the under 25? So we've got Sam Goodman. Yep. Hope Stevie Sparks not in there at buddy 30 years old. Dana Coolwell, he's in there. Who else have we got? Max Reeves. No, sorry, Max, can't find a spot. Jalen Tate's 21 years old. Jeez, how much of a dick do I feel? 21 years old. Well, there you go. I'm going to amend that, Jules. Put him at number 7. Actually, while we're going, we'll have a bit of a look through else who was in there. Alex Winwood, yep, 25. I've got Caesar Matteo Tapia. Now, that asterisk, born overseas, fighting overseas. Mike Altamura is probably going to have a crack at me, but I'm sorry. I don't regard him as an Aussie at this stage. I'm sorry, mate. Who else we got? 25. Brock Jarvis, yep, 25. Thanks for pointing that out, mate. Justice Honey, 24. We'll just go down to maybe number 58. That's about it there. Who's 25 there? Ty Telford. Sorry, mate. Can't help you there. Benjamin Hussain. That's awesome, mate. Appreciate that. Yeah, it would be in the top 25 for in the under 20 in the Mexican one there, Jules. Yeah, no, that's awesome, mate. Good stuff. All right, guys. Well, that's about it for this week. Now, what I'm going to do before we go, I'm going to put my top 10 Aussies up, pound for pound across the board, but we'll discuss it next week. I want you to watch this video, pause it, whatever you got to do, have a look at it, but I'm not going to discuss it now. I want to get it while it's hot. There's been a bit of movement there, but I want to discuss it next week. I'm going to put it up now. So you can't have a crack at me yet. You got to wait till next week. There you go. Number 1, Tim Zhu. Number 1, Tim Zhu. Number 2, Jaya Pataya. 3, Jason Maloney goes to number 3. 4 is George Kambosos Jr. 5, Andrew Maloney. I've got him at number 5 because no one else underneath him has really done anything to take his spot. So for me, Andrew Maloney, still number 5. Number 6, Liam Paro, 2 inactive, out injured for the foreseeable future. Michael Zarafa, again, I know he's got some big fights on the horizon, but hasn't done really anything, if you ask me, for the last couple of years, except Hardman, of course, but still not enough to get above Andy, in my opinion. Liam Wilson, injured as well. Justice Honey, Sam Goodman. Liam Wilson, number 8. Justice Honey, number 9. Sam Goodman, number 10. Come at me, guys. Next week, though, not this week. Have a look at it. As I said, pause it, have a look at it, stew over it. Send me some messages if you want to. Excuse me, and we'll debate it in full next week. So there it is. Thanks again for joining me tonight. It's great to be back. What's it been, 3 weeks, whatever it's been. Really appreciate all the messages I got while I was overseas. All the views on the videos and everything else is very much appreciated. I'm going to be doing more going forward, probably another 2 this year, whether it be Tim Zhu, even Spence Crawford. We didn't actually talk about that tonight. We'll get onto that next week. Might be that. So be a couple more fights this year, and we'll see how we go. So again, check out the Who or Watch Your Verdict, Hani Lomachenko, and look out Tuesday night for myself and Boxing Deep Dive show with Mike Altamura and Tazzy Brown. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you then.